Alright, people, let's do this one last time. My name is Kilo23. I was bitten by the Halo bug when I was a kid, and for the last 19 years, I have been a huge Halo fan. Pretty sure you know the rest. I played Halo, fell in love with it, played a bunch more Halo, maybe too much. Bungie's relationship with Microsoft got a little testy, then they made a few dicey money choices. Do not enter a developer agreement with Activision. And like 10 years passed, blah blah blah, 343 is in charge of Halo now, started to play less and less, the art style changed, the story got complicated, then it got stupid, then this happened. But I handled it like a champ. Because you know what? No matter how many times 343 burns me, I'll always come back. Now I've had a lot of time to reflect and work on myself. Did you know other game developers are making good games? Can you imagine that? Just taking an original idea, writing an engaging story, and then just making it work? 343's been overthinking things, and it worries me. I'm pretty sure they're gonna break my heart. Again. Anyway, a few weeks ago, I'm watching the Microsoft press event, counting the seconds, waiting for Halo. And then a weird thing occurred to me. And don't get me wrong, weird things occur to me all the time, but this was really weird. Okay, it wasn't that weird, but watching the Halo Infinite gameplay reveal made me realize how many times 343 has taken massive steps back in terms of in-fiction tech for aesthetic reasons. Alright, I know that's an intense lead-up for an otherwise lame thesis statement, but hear me out. 343 has made a ton of art direction decisions that have made fans pretty angry. And while I definitely include myself in that pile of angry fans, as an artist myself, I can at least understand the desire to put your own stamp on something. If you look at the redesigns, like the battle rifle, like sure, I'm not a huge fan of the BR-85, but it's still functionally a battle rifle. From a weapons technology standpoint, it makes just as much sense as the BR-55 from the Bungie era. But what if I told you they made some changes that turned the cool, unique, futuristic designs from the Halo we know and love into mundane, modern, stupid things that don't make sense? Well, you probably wouldn't be that surprised, but shut up about that, because I made a video about them anyway. So here they are. 5 ways 343 took a step backward in terms of Halo sci-fi tech. Oof, that's a title. Keep in mind, this list isn't about new designs that I just don't like from an aesthetic standpoint. There are plenty of great videos about that already. I quite enjoyed Late Night Gaming's video about 343's art direction. You can check it out if you'd like to. It's really, really good. This list is more about designs that make less sense or are more lame from a technological standpoint than their Bungie counterparts. So let's get started. Number 5. I'm gonna try to do this from like most nitpicky to shit that legit doesn't make sense. So for the most nitpicky of the bunch, Master Chief's big fuck off 117. Alright, this one's pretty simple. Why does the ultra-tactical Mjolnir armor for the above top-secret Spartan program need a giant white 3-digit number on its chest? We've been seeing 343 trying to push this on us since Halo Legends and Forward Unto Dawn. And setting aside that it completely negates any camouflage achieved by the olive drab color of the armor, looking at you two, white arm stripes, who are these numbers for? 343, I know what you're gonna say.
Oh, hello. It's so other service members can tell them apart.
Yeah, Let me begin my 4-part response thusly. Why don't any of the Marines have name tags then? I mean, I get it, you're not gonna model name tags onto the numerous walking, soon-to-be corpses just to justify your terrible design choice. I mean, Bungie didn't even do that. Which brings me to my next point. Name tags are kinda obsolete when you have IFF tags. Like, in Reach, your fellow soldiers have service tags above their heads. Then you can see their little names and ranks down in the bottom corner there. Look at them. Also, if that's for identification, no one is doing it right. No one calls him 117.
117.
God damn it, Locke. This is why no one likes you. Everyone calls him Chief.
117, stand down.
Everyone that matters calls him Chief. Now granted, everyone knows who the Master Chief is at this point, but even if that weren't the case, a number wouldn't tell you any actually useful information, like name and rank. Even back before Reach came out, and everyone, 343 included, started to assume the Spartan 2s were like Noble Team wearing their own custom armor, they were completely identical.
It's why Chief was surprised that Lieutenant Haverson knew his name and rank in the first Strike novel.
The book even makes a point to say the only people who could tell the Spartans apart aside from themselves were Halsey and Mendez. Sorry, I know I'm getting off track. I'm just pointing out that in the canon, it's already been established that they didn't have any identifying markers on their armor. Either way, if you want to say it's for identification, fine, but it doesn't have to be so massive. Make it small and black. Hell, from a tactical perspective, it made more sense when it was in Braille. At least it was the same color as the armor. Now, it didn't actually make any real sense, because even more so than the white numbers, who the fuck was that for? Okay, no, I'm moving on. Number 4. Smart Link versus aiming down sight. Now this one doesn't get me going quite as much as the other ones, but it's still a step backwards in my opinion. When Halo CE came out in 2001, ADS wasn't as commonplace as it is today, especially not in Sci-Fi. Now that may have been in part due to some technical limitations of the day, but rather than just hand-waving it away, Bungie gave it an in-fiction reason: smart linking. Basically, in the Halo universe, the military developed a technology that allows weapons to automatically link to the user's heads-up display. This is why you can zoom with the pistol even though it doesn't have a scope. Fun fact, Bungie's sniper rifle also doesn't technically have a scope either. Not an optical one anyway. It's always been a screen. So in the fiction, the zoomed display is actually from the perspective of your weapon, not the user, so you don't even have to put the gun up to your eye. You could basically have the same accuracy firing from the hip, which is exactly what we saw all the way up to Halo 5.
Now this only applies to a few of the guns, as Halo 5 is pretty inconsistent with how its scopes work. Like, the DMR clearly looks like you bring the scope up to your eye, while the sniper rifle just does a snap zoom from your perspective. And I am aware that 343 says that the ADS in Halo 5 is smart linking, but it just seems so inconsistent. Like, some weapons, you're clearly just looking through the scope, while others give you a holographic overlay without bringing the gun up to eye level, which the game already does that. I don't know, this one's weird, and just feels like they didn't really give it much thought.
Number 3. Okay, so for the top 3, I'm probably going to get heated. These bug me a lot. Now with that in mind, this one is the fucking 343 Warthog axles. This one just doesn't make sense to me. Like, it's a change purely for aesthetic reasons, and they're stupid aesthetic reasons at that. I don't know who made this decision. Who looked at the unique, futuristic, independent axle design Bungie came up with and was like, you know what would make these better? If we made it like every other car ever. Now keep in mind, this list isn't holding these design choices to what's physically possible. If it was, science fiction wouldn't be one of my favorite genres of games. There's a reason we design car axles and suspensions the way we do, but even if the old axles wouldn't be physically possible, they still make sense. They still have a purpose. They're just different and cool and interesting. My brother and I actually theory crafted why the Bungie design makes sense. Like, the Warthog has always been a hybrid in canon, but we figured that the independent axle design actually used that to its advantage by having each axle driven by its own electric motor. Then those electric motors would be powered by a diesel engine under the hood. I mean, it would give you loads of torque, and no need for linkages that could break, and they'd be relatively easy to swap out if they ever needed to be replaced. The Warthog has always been one of the few designs that hasn't changed much. Like, the silhouette has always been pretty much the same. 343 added some small details like the bars on the front and the gas canisters on the back, but all in all, it's still very much a Warthog. But this shit? This makes me mad. Such an unnecessary change. Number 2. Oh boy, here we go. The 343 Pelican. I'm starting to shake just thinking about it. The Pelican has long been my favorite sci-fi spaceship/aircraft. From a technological standpoint, it already doesn't make sense. It's so incredibly chonky. The fact that it can fly at all should be a source of inspiration for flightless birds everywhere. Enter the 343 Pelican. God, it's so ugly. I hate it so much. And I know what you're thinking. Kilo, you said this wasn't about designs you don't like. I know what I said. But look how they massacred my boy. No, but in all seriousness, I do absolutely regard 343's Pelican with disgust and hatred. I could have just said I abhor 343's Pelican, but just saying that didn't convey the overwhelming execration I have for the fucking thing.
I might have looked up some fancy words on the internet,
But that's beside the point. Look, if you're the guy or a girl, I don't want to make any assumptions, who designed the Pelican for 343, I hate you. You're probably a communist. Now, all that aside, 343 didn't just ruin a perfectly good design. The one they replaced it with doesn't even make sense from an architectural standpoint. Back in the days of yore, Bungie designed the Pelican. It's a pretty well thought out, albeit unlikely design for a VTOL troop carrier. Unlikely in the sense that this thing is such a chunky boy. It's got stubby wings and a really tiny vertical thrusters, but the interior has always made sense. There's only one entry point through the bay door. The pilot has to walk through the troop bay to get to the cockpit. Bungie always made this pretty clear. There were cutscenes to show how everything was laid out. Even when they redesigned the cockpit in Halo 3 to the tandem style, which is my favorite style by the way, it made sense. The pilot sat in the front and the co-pilot sat up and to the left, leaving plenty of standing room in the cockpit. So the 343 Pelican has a door. But I don't know where the fuck it goes. I admit this took some digging.
The only time we see the cockpit before Halo 5 is Halo 4's shutdown level, where we can see that the canopies open and appear to be the only way to get into the cockpit. I think that's kind of lame, but whatever. If you want the troop bay to be separated from the cockpit, that's fine, I guess. Like, that's still a step backwards in my opinion, but then Halo 5 comes along and throws a wrench into the works.
So here we can clearly see the Chief stepping out of a door into the troop bay, and one would assume that he came from the cockpit, but he seriously may as well have come from fucking Narnia. This is the Halo 5 Pelican cockpit. They use this in 3 cutscenes, one with the Chief that I just showed, one where Vale jumps into the cockpit when they're trying to escape Meridian, and one where Palmer and Halsey are in the cockpit as they drop Osiris onto the Guardian. Now they're filmed in such a way that we don't really get to see the layout, and I think that's very on purpose. If they showed the layout from outside the canopy,
I think you'd clearly see that there's no way to get from the cockpit to the troop bay.
This right here, this is the only bulkhead where there could conceivably be a door, but even if it was, the now co-pilot would have to crawl over a bunch of control panels just to get up there. And once you're up there, you'd be a decent amount higher than the troop bay, meaning you'd need to have a set of stairs or a ladder to get down, neither of which can be seen from Chief's wardrobe to Narnia here. Now, cheating ship interiors is hardly a new thing. Bungie did it with the Pillar of Autumn. The Warthog run is like 3 times longer than the ship itself, but what bugs me here is that it clearly didn't have to be cheated. Bungie had the layout down, the work was done, this is just lazy. This is most likely the product of an artist going, look at this really cool cockpit I made for the Pelican. And everyone else is like, oh man, that's really cool looking. Because honestly, it is cool looking. Like, that's a cool looking cockpit. But then somewhere in the process of making the game, they were like, wait, this doesn't make sense. You can't get to the troop bay from here. So rather than fixing it, they were like, fuck it, no one will notice. But they didn't think nerds like me existed. They underestimated the amount of shit one person would raise due to this blatant oversight. Fuck! This should have been number 1. I mean, my actual pick for number 1 makes just as little sense, but it's not as close to my broken fucking heart as this one is. Jesus. Number 1! We're almost there. Just breathe, Kilo. So after watching the Infinite gameplay trailer, a few things stood out to me, but I have to say the most shocking revelation was the confirmation that the Magnum and the shotgun wouldn't be in the game at launch, and would be replaced by the Sidekick and Bulldog respectively. Now we could make a whole category on how the Sidekick is an obvious step backwards in terms of technology. It looks like any poly-handle pistol you'd find at a gun store today. But I'm actually going to talk about the shotgun. But wait, I hear you say. The Bulldog is clearly more advanced. It's magazine-fed. Yeah, that's true, but I'm actually not here to talk about the Bulldog, even if I think its design is as uninspired as the Sidekicks. I'm talking about the M45 tactical shotgun from Halo 4 and 5, and how stupid it is compared to the one from Reach, and by extension the M90 from Halo 1, 2, and 3. Actually, I'm going to talk about how stupid it is compared to real shotguns and the laws of physics themselves. A lot of people sleep on the OG shotgun design, and I understand why. It looks like a shotgun. Nothing super crazy about it, but if you know anything about firearms and shotguns in general, a few things will jump out. First, it's a top-loading shotgun. Now again, I'm not an expert, so I don't know if top-loading shotguns are a good idea or not, but I can tell you that it's a unique design. Secondly, the magazine is above the barrel, as opposed to below as it is with most shotguns. Thirdly, the magazine is extra wide, allowing double the capacity as a normal shotgun. Now, this is only the case with the M90 in Halo 1 and 2, and doesn't apply to the M90A in Halo 3 or the M45E in Reach, but the wide magazine has always been there. Either way, the original design was unique and futuristic, while also clearly having the silhouette of a shotgun. In comes the 45D from Halo 4 and 5. And we can talk about how busy and unnecessary most of the details are all day long, but let's actually look at how the gun works. If you look at it from the side, you'll notice a pretty large difference. It doesn't have the bulbous magazine from the Bungie days. As a matter of fact, the barrel is on top this time around, but it's still a top-loading shotgun. How does that work? Where are these shells going? Are they going into the barrel? Did Weapon System Technologies apply the Aperture Science school of thought and decide just to shoot the entire shell? Maybe they got some insider tips from Mizraya and employed the same portal technology they used for the goddamn 343 Pelican cockpit. No, that can't be, because what's this? The shell comes back out the same port it goes in.
All right, would anyone care to explain?
Normally this wouldn't be an issue. There are plenty of shotguns with the same loading and ejection port, but since I'm pretty sure we can rule out the shells going into the barrel, they have to be going past the barrel down into a magazine. And I doubt that would make it easy to reload these things, as you'd essentially have to push the shell down past the barrel and make sure it went to the magazine. Now, the first ever pump shotgun had a top ejection, but it's still loaded from the bottom, as that's where the magazine was. Loading past the barrel is inefficient, and even the early shotgun inventors knew it. This is likely another example of a designer saying, "Look at this neat fucking thing I made," and everyone going, "Sweet!" Then when it went to animation, they were like, "Hold on, wait, what?" Then the powers that be were like, "Fuck it, future science." And typically, I'm not that mad at that explanation. Like, when it comes to the actual science fiction parts, like slip space and hard light and portal technology, like, future science works, that's fine. But like, a shotgun is a mechanical thing that makes sense. And again, if that's how you want the shotguns to work, fine, I guess. And if that's how it always worked, even better. But you literally took something that made sense mechanically and changed it to make less sense so it could accommodate your new fancy design. That's why the Pelican and the shotgun were the top spots. Like, the Warthog, as much as I hate the change, it still makes sense in and of itself. Like, that is what your typical off-road vehicle's axle and suspension look like. These last two? Stupid. Illogical. Lazy. Anyway, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. If you like this video, which I'm not even sure I liked this video, like or subscribe or whatever. This was kind of a bit of catharsis for me, like I just needed to get it out, so I don't know when or even if I'll make another one, but if a bunch of people like it, maybe I'll make some more videos on my meaningless opinions on Halo. But until that happens, I'll probably just make some stupid Halo meme videos like this one. Well, anyway, thanks for watching, and I will see...
117.
God damn it, Locke!